The topic of my talk is Indian Foreign Service and Policy. The Indian Foreign Service is an exotic service. Some even say it is esoteric. But this exotic service could be an exciting one for some of you if you are inclined to enjoy intellectual encounter with interesting people across the world. This is the service for you if you want to break out of your being a caterpillar crawling on the floor and transform into a butterfly, colorful and flying around. This is the service for you if you want to get out of your comfort zone and expose yourself and feel the continental winds of the world. And this is the service if you have the confidence to act and perform in the large global stage. And this is if you feel the adrenaline rushing inside you to play and compete in the Olympics and World Cup of diplomatic games played by countries around the world. And this is the service for those of you who want to widen your horizon, elevate your perspective and outlook, and want to become global and cosmopolitan in your approach and outlook, and have the confidence to feel at home in any place on earth, and agree with my friend Kaniyan Pungunranar. Yadum ore, yavarum kelir. Yadum ore, yavarum kelir. When you reach that stage, you have arrived as a diplomat, as a perfect diplomat. Now, for this exotic service, you need some exceptional expertise, special skills, diplomatic skills. You should have the ability to understand people from different countries, their cultures, their politics, their strengths and weaknesses. And you should have the communication skills to interact with them. Now, let me illustrate this expertise of dealing with the foreign cultures and politics. There is a Colombian film, you know Colombia in Latin America, it's in Spanish. It's called Embajador de la India in Spanish. It means Ambassador of India. It's a real movie. Maybe it's in Netflix, you can try. Embajador de la India, Ambassador of India, is the title of the film. Now, in this film, there is a guy traveling in a bus in a remote area, a rural area, very sleepy. And then when he gets up, he feels like smoking. Takes out his cigarette, but there's no match. So he taps the other guy behind and asks, "Hey, do you have a match?" And so he gives. And the other guy says, hey, your accent is a bit different. Where are you from? And this guy is a crook, the con man. So he says, oh, yo soy de la India. In Spanish it means, I am from India. So he gets excited, he tells the other people in the bus, and they all start asking him about India. And then they ask, hey, you're from India, but what are you doing here in Colombia, in your rural, remote area? He says, yo soy embajador de la India, which means I am the ambassador of India. People says, come on, don't pull our legs, you should be kidding us. He says, no, I am the ambassador of India. And I say, come on, you can't be the ambassador of India. And the guy says, yo soy embajador de la India incognito. You understand? Incognito. Disguise. He says, I am the Indian ambassador in disguise. I wanted to understand and interact with the common people in the rural areas of Colombia. So that is why I'm traveling in an official bus, sitting with people and talking to you guys. So I want to understand and interact. And they believe him. So when they reach the little town, they go and tell the mayor, oh, there is this ambassador of India here, but in disguise. So the mayor gets excited. He calls other people, they are meeting, they are felicitate him, welcome him, there are parties. It's a generally good time. And then they say, oh, if you're ambassador of India, we want to see you like a real ambassador. So they get a tailor, they make a turban, coat. And then one day, the daughter of the mayor, she falls in love with him. And they're having an engagement party. And everyone is a bit drunk. And in this party, some guy is drunk and then he says loudly to everyone, hey, this guy is not the ambassador, he's a fake. He's a crook, he's a con man, he's my friend. So he caught all of you for a ride. So there's total shock. And people are taken aback. Now, if this happened in India, what would have happened? Would have caught him, beaten him up, given him to the police? So that is where the Latin American culture is different. So they say, what? You took us for a royal ride? Come, let's have a party. More drinks, more music, louder. Because partying, celebration, fiesta is the core of Latin American culture. So if you want to do business with the Latin Americans, if you want to negotiate with them, you have to understand this one. And the philosophy of the Latin Americans is there in an Argentine pop song. It goes like this. Celebra la vida, segundo a segundo, nada se guarda, todo se venda. There's someone who understands Spanish here? Okay. It means celebrate life, second to second. Don't hold anything. Give out everything. Celebrate life, second to second. So that is the Latin American culture. Now, if you want to understand the Latin American politics, you should see a movie, a Mexican film. It's called Su Excelencia, which means Your Excellency. You know what's meant by Your Excellency? So that is the title of the film. So in this film, the ambassador is hosting a dinner for the president of a small country. So the ambassador is sitting on the head table, and the president of the host country is sitting on facing him. Then the colleagues of the ambassador are sitting on both sides, and on the president's one side is army attaché, the chief of the army staff, and other people are there. On the other side you have ministers. So the dinner started. They start with the soup, the main course, and by the time they come for dessert, one of the butlers come running to the ambassador. Ambassador, there is a telegram. This is for whom? It is for the president. So he says, go and deliver it to him. So he takes it to the butler takes the telegram to the president, shows it to him. So the president sees the telegram and his face goes white. Shock. He gets up, walks the other side, goes where the chief of the army staff sits, and go and show it to him. So the army chief sees this one, he does this, looks around, gets up, and comes and sits in the place where the president was sitting. What? What have you understood? There is a military coup. The president has been overthrown. The army has taken over the country. That is the fact of life in Latin America. It used to be. Now it has become better. Now, the strengths and weaknesses of the people, how do you assess? For me, my Latin American friends are the gurus. So they tell me an ideal world, a strong world, should use the strength of different people, different nationalities. And that will be like heaven. So what is this heaven? Heaven is the place where the French are the cooks. They are great cooks, gourmet cooks, French cuisine. The British are the policemen. Correct, benevolent, proper. The Germans are the engineers. Precise, accurate, punctual, everything done according to rules. The Swiss are the financial managers. That's why so many Indians have money in Swiss accounts. They trust them. And Latinos as lovers. They are the champions of love in the world. So they say, this is how the world should be. Now, suppose you change the roles of the people, what happens? It will become a hell. So they say hell is a place where the British are the cooks. Horrible. Have you heard of any British food? No. And the French are the engineers. They will complain all the time. And the Germans are the policemen. Nazis. Terrible. Terrible. And the Swiss are the lovers. Very boring. No imagination. And Latinos as the financial managers. Total disaster. They'll make the world go bankrupt in a day. If they earn $100, they will spend $200. That's why so many countries have gone bust in Latin America. You might have been reading about this latest crisis in Argentina where they are getting $50 billion rescue from IMF. Now, you also need communication skills. How to speak, what to speak, when to speak, and when not to speak. கடன் அறிந்து காலம் குறித்து இடம் அறிந்து எண்ணி பேசுவார் தூதுவர். Something like this. திருக்குறள். There is a one அதிகாரம். தூது. You should be. You have to be master of words in speaking and in writing. A colleague of mine has written a book. His name is T.P. Srinivasan, Ambassador T.P. Srinivasan. He has written a book, I see some heads nodding. The title of the book is Words, Adventures in Diplomacy. It's all about words. Oh, I'm glad you read so much. There are some basic rules for diplomats how to talk. Rule number 1. A diplomat never say no. Parkalam. But no. Never say no. The diplomat never says no. But they also say, women never say yes. True? No, all these guys. Huh? So diplomat never say no, and the women never say yes. But tell me, what happens when a woman becomes a diplomat? Anyone? Any guess? I'll give you a clue. I've seen this latest film, Seema Raja, by Sivakarthikeyan and Suri. Varum, Ana Varadu. Varum, Ana Varadu. That is why the women are so successful in diplomacy. The men cannot understand. So you have a natural advantage. The second rule of diplomacy is that don't talk too much. Speak less, few words, carefully. So they say a diplomatic talk should be like a mini skirt. Diplomat talk should be like a mini skirt. You know mini skirt, right? Short enough to arouse interest, but sufficiently long enough to cover the area of interest. Okay? Short enough to arouse interest, but sufficiently long enough to cover the area of interest. Now you understood, right? And third rule, sometimes don't speak, shut your mouth. Let the silence speak. So they have a saying, a diplomat is someone who thinks twice before saying nothing. A diplomat is someone who thinks twice before saying nothing. Because sometimes silence could be a potential weapon. That's sometimes used, right? Silence could be more lethal, more fatal than words. Sometimes words you would utter something foolish. But silence they don't know. There is a beautiful Spanish song. It's like this. Quisiera oírtu silencio, dizer callar mis palabras. It means I want to listen to your silence. I want to silence my words. Good for the boys. Children, avoid exposing your foolishness. I want to listen to your silence. I want to silence my words. And the last rule of diplomatic speech is you should make the words ambiguous so that it can be interpreted in any way. So there is this ambassador being interviewed by the nation wants to know. Arnab Goswami. So the famous Arnab Goswami asked the ambassador about political situation in Latin America, economic relations, multilateral issues. After finishing everything, then he says, Ambassador, I have asked you all the questions the nation wants to know. But now, off the record, I want to know a few things about your personal life. We all have our vices, defects, flaws, weaknesses. So I'm going to ask you, do you smoke? So the ambassador looks at him straight and says, no. And then the second question, Ambassador, do you drink? So the ambassador, no. Then Arnab asks, Ambassador, do you take drugs? No. Then the mischievous Arnab Goswami asks, Ambassador, do you do etc.? No. So then Arnab is puzzled. He says, come on, no one is perfect. Everyone has got some defect, some flaw. What is yours? The ambassador looks at him and says, sometimes I lie. Sometimes I lie. Such a small lies. So Arnab Goswami is totally confused. Now, when we talk about words, there are two words which you hear more often in the world of diplomacy. One, cheers. You know what is cheers? Yes. The other one, Your Excellency. So this cheers elevates your spirit, right? And Your Excellency enhances your esteem. So that's why some people say that diplomacy is nothing but 50% alcohol and 50% protocol. You know, when you're a diplomat, you're an ambassador, you attend parties, cocktail parties, where the drinks flow freely. And it's not 1 or 2 days. You know, how many countries are there in the world? Members of United Nations? 193? Okay. Now, all these countries, they host National Day receptions. Like we have our Republic Day. So you get invitation for 193 days. Okay? And in addition, people invite you when they have delegations, when there is an event. The local governments would invite you. And then you also invite people. So out of 360 days, you will spend something like 361 days in cocktail parties. So tough life. But you should have the discipline and the determination not to get drowned in the drinks, but to float above and use the parties to connect with people, to contact and exchange information which is of use. And there are some people who are officially not allowed to drink. So I had this problem once when I was in Libya. So I had invited a Libyan diplomat. So I asked him very politely, Ambassador, can I offer you some orange juice? He said, no, no. And I asked him, will you have some Coke? No, no. Then I took some courage and said, Ambassador, will you have some beer? No, no, no. Then I became more encouraged and asked him, Ambassador, will you have some wine? No, 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 no. Then I asked him, Ambassador, will you have some whiskey soda? He said, no soda, no soda, no soda. On the rocks. No soda. See, that is a diplomatic way of getting what you want. Now, don't get the mistaken impression that diplomacy is all about alcohol and drinking. If you go to a party of Donald Trump, he doesn't drink. He's a teetotaler. Prime Minister Modi doesn't drink. And in fact, in our Rashtrapati Bhavan, where the president is there, when you have a banquet, dinner, reception for visiting presidents, or when our prime minister hosts something, or our foreign minister hosts, no alcohol, only Ganga Jal. Officially, in all our official ceremonial events, you are not allowed to serve alcohol. But as ambassador, you can do. The minister cannot do. But you are lucky, you are not there during the time of Morarji Desai. He used a special drink, right? You are all too young to know about that. You ask them afterwards. Now, the other word I said is Your Excellency. Your Excellency is the term used to address the ambassadors. Now, and the word of Your Excellency opens a whole new world of ceremonies, glamour, pomp. Like for example, when you are posted as an ambassador, you reach the country, but you don't just start the work. No. You have to present your credentials to the president of the country, or the prime minister, or the queen, or the king. Sometimes it will take a few days, few weeks, few months. Until you present the credentials, you are nobody. You cannot be invited to official functions or events. So you have to present these credentials. Now this one, like if you see in Rashtrapati Bhavan in Delhi, is a very elaborate ceremony. They bring the ambassador in a stretched limo to the main gate of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the band playing. Come inside, there are all these military people doing all this. Very formal, ceremonial, very impressive ceremony. And if you get posted to London, you go to the Buckingham Palace. How do you go? Not in a car. horse-drawn carriages. And you go and present your credentials to the Queen, and she accepts, and then you have tea with her. Interesting, right? Now, the official full definition of an ambassador is ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary. Go back to your dictionary and check. It means you are the representative of the President of India, and you have the power to sign any agreement, any memorandum, which a chief minister of a state doesn't have. If he has to sign an agreement, or any other minister has to sign an agreement with a foreign government, he has to get the authority from the president through the Ministry of External Affairs. But if you are an ambassador, you have the authority. That is why it's called ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary. And the ambassador doesn't drive an ambassador car, right? He goes in a car with the license plate called CD. CD number plate. In Madras you see CC, consular corps, the corps of diplomat, CD number plate. Which means the traffic policeman cannot stop. You can't give a ticket if there is a traffic violation. And the ambassador's house and the embassy are considered as the territory of the government. Like if we have an embassy in, say, Pakistan, our embassy there, our ambassador's residence is considered as Indian territory. So the local people, local law enforcing agencies cannot enter it. Absolutely. Which opens up interesting possibilities politically. As part of international relations, you might have read about this WikiLeaks founder, Julian Assange. No, you're a bright, smart case. Julian Assange, he went into the embassy of Ecuador in London when he was threatened to be arrested. Huh? Oops. Oh, sorry. Okay. This Julian Assange is an Australian, he's the founder of WikiLeaks. And when the British, Americans, and the Swedish were after him to arrest him, he ran into the embassy of Ecuador in 2012. And he's still there for the last 6 years without paying for his food or accommodation. He got asylum. So the Americans can't do anything, the British cannot do anything, nobody can do anything because it is the Ecuadorian territory. Now, this has happened a number of times in Latin America, like in 2008 in a country called Honduras, Central America. There was a president called Manuel Zelaya. He was overthrown in a coup, and he ran into the Brazilian embassy and took asylum there. He wouldn't be done anything. In 1954, in a country called Guatemala, Central America, there was a coup. It was the first socialist government which was overthrown by CIA. And that president ran into the Mexican embassy, got asylum and stayed for a few months. So the ambassador's house and the embassy have this immunity and the privilege to play a role. Sometimes something terrible happens in a country. Now, shall we talk about the Indian Foreign Service? What is this service? Now, when you actually Indian Foreign Service, I will break it like this. Indian is 1/3, foreign is 2/3, and the service is 24/7. So that is Indian Foreign Service. Because in your career, you spend roughly 1/3 of your career in India, in Delhi, and 2/3 you spend outside. And of course, you are on call at any time, 24/7. So if you get selected in the Foreign Service after your training in Missouri, you go and join the Ministry of External Affairs, and don't think you are a diplomat. You are not. You are like any other in the government of India civil service. You go through the hierarchy, under secretary, deputy secretary, joint secretary. But of course, you deal with our embassies abroad, you deal with the local embassies here, you receive reports from your embassies, you formulate policies, you implement them, you interact with your colleagues in Commerce Ministry or Education Ministry, or if you are formulating a policy on Sri Lanka, whom do you consult? Tamil Nadu. If you have something on Bangladesh, the great leader. Okay? So that is what you do when you are in India. But it normally happens for about 1/3 of your career. Because there are more posts outside, you spend more time outside. Typically, you spend 3 years in Delhi and go out on a posting, normally postings of 3 years. So you do 2 postings together, or sometimes 3 postings together, and then you come to Delhi, stay for 3 years. So it works out 2/3 outside and 1/3 here in India. But when you go abroad, then you get this diplomatic status. Then the fun begins. So you join the embassy. But embassy also has got different names. In many places it's called embassies. In some places it's called high commissions. In some places it's called consulates. In some places it's called as permanent missions. Now, embassies are normal. High commissions are the British Commonwealth. Consulates are actually branch offices, like the American Embassy in Delhi is a consulate in Chennai or Mumbai. Permanent mission we have in United Nations in New York, United Nations in Geneva. Then there is one more animal called honorary consulate, honorary consul. Have you heard of that? Like, for example, I was posted in Argentina. I was also accredited to Paraguay and Uruguay. We don't have embassies there. So what we do is we appoint a local dignitary as an honorary consul. So we don't pay him anything. Only when he holds a diplomatic party, we give him whiskey. But normally he's a big businessman or someone who's connected, wheeler and dealer, so he can fix meetings for you, knows the local people, and enhance the image of your country by his eminence and connections. That is called honorary consul. Even in Chennai, we have got so many honorary consuls, including a honorary consul for Paraguay, AVM Balasubramanian. AVM Studio, which used to make movies. He is the honorary consul for Paraguay. You should read a book by Graham Greene called Honorary Consul. And the story takes place in Paraguay. Now, in the embassy, the ambassador is at the top. Then you have various departments, division of work, political, economic, information, cultural, and consular. Now, if you're doing political work, you are in touch with the local political leaders, with all the parties, ruling parties, opposition parties, underground parties, and you send reports, what's happening, you follow the developments, and you convey your policies not only to the ruling party and government but also to the opposition. Because tomorrow they come to power, they will disown your policies. So you have to keep everyone informed. But this political work becomes more important in Maldives, you know why? Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Seychelles, Mauritius, and of course the big USA, China and Russia, because these are politically important for India. What the political leaders think there, you have to feel the pulse of it. You shouldn't be taken by surprise. So you have to have political interaction constantly with people there. I did a posting in Pakistan. I was in Karachi. That was the most exciting part of my whole career. You know, when I went there, like you, I read all kinds of rubbish books about Pakistan. How bad they are, enemies. So when I went there, I realized I was completely prejudiced in my mind about Pakistanis from all the accumulated nonsense. So what I had to do was clear my mind, disabuse my mind, open up my eyes, open up my mind, and look at Pakistanis like any other foreigners, not like an Indian. And that was a great internal challenge for me. Initially I used to get into all kinds of arguments, issues, but then once I did this one, cleared my mind and opened it up, I used to say in those days that I had more friends in Karachi than in Delhi. Really I had lots of friends. And it was very interesting to understand the internal politics of Pakistan. The number one thing is, Pakistan was formed in this two-nation theory, where Jinnah said that the Muslims don't want to be subjugated to the majority tyranny of the Hindus. Fair enough. But where they formed Pakistan was really the places where the minority Hindus were subjected to the majority tyranny of the Muslims. Totally contradictory. So that's how the problem of Pakistan started. So Pakistan has not resolved its internal contradiction. It has not found its identity. So all the time they find a common voice only against India. And then within Pakistan you have so many ethnic groups. You have Sindhis who speak Sindhi, Sindh province. You have Baluchis, you have Pathans, you have Punjabis. And then there is a segment called Muhajirs. The Muhajirs are the people who went from India for this greater idea of Pakistan, undertaking a lot of sacrifice, displaced from Lucknow and Hyderabad all the way. They go there. And then today, they are treated like dirt. They are like stateless people. Because where they went is Karachi, which was the capital of Sindh. And the Mohajis went and kicked the Sindhis out. So the Sindhis are up in arms against the Mohajis. Hey, who are you guys? You have come and taken over Karachi, Hyderabad and Sakar. And the Sindhis and Baluchis and Pathans, they get kicked around by the Punjabis. And the ruling language, the language of domination has become Punjabi. And it's fascinating. So it is not one Pakistan Yada. And then there is the other segment, there is this military and the government, which is normally under the jurisdiction of the military. It's a pity that, the people of Pakistan are as good or as bad as the Indians. But in fact, I would say that in a way, they are somewhat better in the sense that, see, in India, we are weighed down by our 5,000 years of civilization, caste system, the whole complexity. So you are buried 200 feet deep in this one. You have to swim and come out. But in Pakistan, the people start on a clean slate, from a scratch. They don't want to read history. Why should? So they had this opportunity to be a progressive, forward-looking country. But they become the victims of the military and politicians. So that's why it is very exciting for me to be in Pakistan to do political work. Then we have this economic work. We call it sometimes as economic diplomacy. Now, economic work is basically promotion of exports, facilitation of imports, they are essential imports, promotion of investment and joint ventures of Indian companies abroad, and then attracting foreign direct investment into your country. Here, the embassies play a critical role in certain areas where there is a big gap in information. People can do business with the United States, it's an open book. But to do business in Latin America or Central Asia or some parts of Africa, and our business people don't know. Their sources of information are based on American newspapers or British BBC and CNN, which are prejudiced. So that is where the embassy provides information about the opportunities for business to our people, guide them, tell them about the basic business culture over there, how to do business. So we handhold them. So we work very closely. We give lectures in chambers of commerce and trade and industry associations, talking about the Indian economy, the market, and what we can do. So this is economic diplomacy. Now, many here will think that, oh, this is Latin America? It is too far. So, the Latin American countries may not be important for India's trade. And at least it should be less important than our close neighbors or our traditional trading partners. That's what you would all think, right? Not true. We exported $160 million to a tiny country called Uruguay, which is more than what we exported to Uzbekistan, just $31 million. Now, Uruguay is 15,000 kilometers from India. Has a population of 3.4 million. took off. But we exported more to the distant and remote Uruguay than to Uzbekistan, which is just about 3 hours flight from Delhi, it's about 2,000 kilometers. We exported $141 million to a country called Honduras, which is more than our exports to the neighboring Cambodia. We did about $120 million. Again, Honduras is 15,000 kilometers. Cambodia is nearby. It's in our backyard. And there is this country called Guatemala. We exported $292 million, which is more than double of our exports to Cambodia. You've heard of this Central America? The 6 countries from Panama to Guatemala. They have a population of 40 million. And last year we exported almost $1 billion. Whereas to the Central Asian republics, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, all those 6 towns. They have a population of 70 million. And we did only about 365 million exports. And last year our exports to Mexico was $5 billion. This is more than our exports to Thailand, Iran, Republic of Korea, or Japan, or Russia, or Canada. You all think that Russia is more important, Korea is more important, Japan is more important, but we exported more to Mexico. Now, you would also think that many business people in India think that, oh, because of distance, the freight rate should be very high. So you cannot export heavy things. You can export software because there is no weight. But surprisingly, the largest export of India to Latin America is vehicles. We export $2 billion to Mexico. Number 1 destination for Indian car exports. And the number 1 destination for exports to Colombia of motorcycles is Colombia. Is it Narcos in Netflix? The serial. Pablo Escobar's place. So Colombia is the number 1 destination for India's global motorcycle exports. In fact, Hero company, Hero Motorcycles, they have set up a plant in a place called Cali, spending $80 million of investment to assemble motorcycles over there. And let me give you an example of how we open the eyes of Indian businessmen about the opportunities outside. Like when I was Consul General in Brazil, 96 to 2000. In 1999, there was a crisis in Brazil. It's a follow-up of the Asian crisis in 1998 in Thailand, Korea, Indonesia, where they went bust. Because of that impact, there's a crisis in Brazil, and it became contagious for Argentina and the region of South America. So all these BBC, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Standard & Poor's, everyone wrote, don't go anywhere near Brazil. Crisis. So that's what our Indian businessmen thought. Don't go near Brazil. Problem, crisis. But I wrote to our chambers of commerce, CII, FICCI, and the export promotion councils, hey guys, Brazil is in a crisis. Great, this is an opportunity for us. I told them, when the Brazilians are prosperous, when they have a lot of money, when they have no problem, They go to buy in Miami. They go to Frankfurt. They go to Tokyo. They don't come to India. But when they have less money, when the Japanese or the Germans and Americans don't want to come there, there's nobody there. So they are looking for less expensive products because they have less money. So I told the Indian, this is an opportunity for you, come. And they came. And then we opened the pharmaceutical market. You know, in pharmaceuticals, you've got patented drugs and generic medicines. I'm sure as part of general knowledge you should be learning about this. So in Brazil those days, it was almost 100% patented medicine. Anything which was selling for 10 rupees in India, it would sell there for about 1,000 rupees. The companies were making money, multinationals and local companies. And we contacted the health minister of Brazil, who had pretensions to become the president of the country. So we knew that he was planning a campaign. So we went and told him, Mr. Minister, your people are being squeezed and poor people can't afford health care. And look at India, we use generic medicines and it's cheap. So why don't you buy from India? Poor people will be happy and they will vote for you. So we aligned our interests with his interests and he fell for it. So we invited him to India. He visited the laboratories of Ranbaxy and Sun Pharma. We brought delegations from India. We organized seminars. And that's how we opened the market. Today, we export about $1 billion of pharmaceuticals to Latin America, of which about $400 million go to Brazil. And when the other countries saw what's happening in Brazil, they also need votes. So Argentina, Chile, and others followed. So this is how we educate and inform and advise the Indian businessmen about the opportunities and work with the local business people, politicians, to open the market for Indian products. And then we did something about our energy security. Am I getting too serious? You know, we import over $100 billion of crude oil, petroleum every year. That is the biggest hole in our budget. And most of it comes from Gulf countries, unreliable people. You never know. So we need to diversify our sources of purchase to reduce the risk, political risk and uncertainties of Middle East. So we went to the Latin American countries. We went to Venezuela, Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador. And we told them, why don't you look at Indian market? It's growing. And then we told them a truth. Their principal export market was United States. But the United States, after the shale revolution, they started increasing domestic production. They have been reducing imports from Latin America plus other countries. In fact, now they have become the largest producer of petroleum in the world, overtaking Saudi Arabia and Russia. So we told the Latin American, you see, your principal market, you are losing. But in India, we don't have any long-term vision. We want to happily import forever. So you can count on our foolishness. So you sell to us. So you give a bit of discount, or people will start buying, and if they like it, and they will buy more. So you can diversify, you can also reduce your risk of over-dependency on one country. And they fell for it. Today, we import something about 15 to 20% of our crude oil from this Venezuela, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador. And our ONGC has also invested in these countries. They own oil fields. Now, we are doing something in a smaller scale for food security. You'll be reading about agriculture. You know, while India is self-sufficient in cereals, rice and wheat, we import what's called edible oil, vegetable oil, over $15 billion every year. And also we import about $5 billion of pulses, dal, avarambarpu. Because we don't produce enough. Because the government gives more subsidies for rice, everyone grows rice and we export. But these two items we have perpetual shortage, so we import. So we have opened up the Latin American market with a long-term idea in mind. Because in India, we are losing hundreds of thousands of hectares of agricultural land every year to urbanization. I come from a small village near Trichy, 35 kilometers. In the olden days when I used to go by bus, it would stop in 6, 7 small towns and villages. But now from Trichy to my village, both sides, your shops and factories and houses, all the agricultural fields have disappeared. I live in another village near Delhi, it's called Gurgaon. It used to be all agricultural fields, all taken over by the IT companies and people like us. So we are losing agricultural land in India. And water is a serious issue. Water table is going down in Punjab, it's going down in Tamil Nadu, and we have a Kaveri problem. And the productivity of Indian farmers cannot increase dramatically because small plots of land, they can't invest like the Argentines or Brazilians. So we have serious long-term problems. On the other hand, every year you add 15 million mouths to feed, right? The population increase every year is 15 million. So we will have this problem, but politicians come for 5 years, so they don't want to talk about this. So, but we have been opening up Latin America, especially Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay. They have a lot of fertile agricultural land. You might have heard of pampas in Argentina, very productive. In Brazil alone, they can bring another 40 million hectares of land into agriculture. Right now they are using them as pastures or forestry. And they have plenty of water. And they have the best technology and best practices. So we tell the Latin Americans, hey, you have got land, you have got water, you have less population. And in fact, if Brazil, Argentina put together, they can feed another 500 million people in the world. So we tell them, don't worry, we have the mouths, we have the fields. So we have this complementarity, we have the synergy. So we have started importing edible oils. Otherwise we used to import from Malaysia and Indonesia, palm oil, which is low quality, bad for cholesterol. We get soya oil, sunflower oil from Argentina. And we started getting pulses from these countries. So in the long run, Latin America is going to contribute to India's energy security and food security to some extent. So this is economic diplomacy. And there is something called information work. You are in touch with the journalists, to spread fake news. And clarify fake news. I was also doing in Karachi information work. So I used to spend half my time in the Karachi Press Club, eating delicious kebabs, exchanging gossip about military people and politicians and dictatorship, getting information from them. It was very exciting. And there is cultural work. Now, cultural work is dissemination of Indian culture, yoga, meditation, philosophy, Gandhism, and promote cultural exchanges, invite their dancers, musicians, to help people to people understanding of each other's culture. But in Latin America, our cultural promotion has gone to a newer level. For example, in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, there is a nightclub. I see some eyes open. That's a different nightclub. There is a group, there's a band called Yoga Rain. They perform once a month. And they sing in pure Sanskrit. Pure Sanskrit. But they sing in pop form, rock, bossa nova, tango, and all the musical styles, but purely Sanskrit. And when they have the performance, there is no non-vegetarian, only samosas. Vegetarian, only vegetarian food. No alcohol, no smoking, no drugs, no etc. And in between the songs, they have a guy who asks the audience, they're all younger people, teenagers, adolescents, 17, 18, 19. And this guy tells them yogic poses, meditation. Can you imagine if you open something like in India, you'll go bankrupt on the first day, right? Which Indian youngster will come to a nightclub without alcohol or etc.? No one will come. But in Argentina, you have. So they have taken Indian spiritualism to a new level. And I have a Brazilian friend. He has done it even one level better. His name is Fernandes de Oliveira from Sao Paulo, Brazil. And he got married at the age of 32 and came to India on his honeymoon. And they went around and okay, they saw Taj Mahal. They also saw a lot of dirt, poverty. So they were not very impressed. They were tired. But before going, somebody suggested, why don't you go to the hills, go to Rishikesh? So then they told the driver, okay, let's go to Rishikesh. And when they were going on the road to Rishikesh from Haridwar, his heart started vibrating. It vibrated more than the ambassador car. And when they reached Rishikesh, somebody took them to one of those ashrams, the gurus. It's called Satchadam Ashram in Rishikesh. And when he went inside, they introduced the guru. And when he saw the guru, he couldn't believe. He used to get dreams in which there is a wise old man with a white beard used to appear in his dreams. But he didn't think much of it. And then when he saw this person, he fell on his feet. surrendered himself. And then looked at his wife and said, bye-bye. Ciao. He renounced marriage, became a celibate, and stayed in the ashram 3 years, gave up his beer for Ganga Jal, and went through this rigorous training. He did so well, so well. The guru, there was the fourth guru of the Satchadam ashram. When he was about to die, he called this Brazilian disciple, Fernandes de Oliveira, and told him, I anoint you as the fifth guru, my successor. Hereafter, your name will be Sri Prem Baba. Sri Prem Baba. Became a guru. So he's there in Rishikesh. Sri Prem Baba. Can you imagine? He doesn't speak a word of English. He speaks only in Portuguese. He has got ashrams in Rishikesh, in many countries in Latin America, in Israel, in Europe, and United States. Jet-setting guru. Prem Baba. You all think that Latinos, particularly Brazilians, are the samba dancing, football loving, free-spirited people. And here there is this Brazilian who is preaching Indian spiritualism, Indian philosophy to the world through Portuguese language in a Brazilian way. Isn't it interesting? I was also posted in a country called Mauritius. You heard of Mauritius? Nice place, nice for holiday. 3 years too long. And there is a local politics in Mauritius. You know, Mauritius, about 65% or people who went from India as bonded laborers, of which 1/10 of them are the Tamils. Just like the Tamils in India go to what they do? I didn't say anything. So the Tamils in Mauritius do exactly the opposite of what the other Indians do there. They don't get along. So when I reached there, so since I was Tamil, they invited me to their association meeting. And they were very particular. They said, sir, you should speak in pure Tamil. Okay? So I opened my old Tamil books, prepared myself, a lot of jokes, everything. So I gave a speech for, they asked me to speak for about 40 minutes, but then after 15-20 minutes, I found that they were so stiff. No one laughed at my jokes. I was totally discouraged. I stopped. Then I asked the guy, the one who organized, right, something wrong with my speech or wrong with you people? You didn't laugh at my jokes? He said, sir, there is a small problem. What? He said, we people don't understand Tamil. If you don't understand Tamil, then why do you ask me to speak in Tamil? He said, because you wanted to hear that, what is that? Ten, Aruvi, something like that. Tamil Mori, Bol, Verangam Mori, something like that. So they heard so much about this, that Tamil is the sweetest language. So they wanted to hear it, even if you don't understand. You know, they had gone 250 years plus back with the French from Pondicherry. They completely forgotten 250 years, and the French sort of force them to have Christian names and discourage their culture, language, everything. So completely lost us. But now there is a revival. So we send Tamil teachers, we send Tamil books. I could say Govindarajan once. And so we do a lot of things, and there is a lot of revival of interest. With the result, now the young people are taught in Tamil in schools. But it's an experience to talk to the young Tamils. So they will come to you and say, "No, ungalai paakka vandirukkiren." Because that's what they read. See, the Tamils are the perfect hypocrites. We write one thing and speak totally differently, right? So they are the written Tamils. Huh? So the next time when the Tamil Association invited me to another speech, I said, "Hey guys, I need an interpreter. So I will speak in English. To get me an interpreter to translate into, they have a local language called Creole." And then I told this interpreter, I'm going to tell a lot of jokes, stories, be careful. So I started. And he was one of the lousiest interpreters. And he was struggling. And I became even more frustrated. So then I told him, "Hey, come on, I'll give you one last chance. Now I'm going to tell you a joke. Okay? Listen to it very carefully. And I want to see the audience laughing for 3 minutes at least. So listen carefully." So I elaborated my story, narrated my joke. This guy listened to everything. And then he translated just like that. And everyone started laughing for 3-4 minutes. I was very impressed. I spent 3-4 minutes to narrate my joke. And this guy did in 30 seconds translation. And everyone was laughing. I was puzzled. So I called him, "Friend, you are the most talented interpreter. How did you manage to do it?" He said, "Sir, but I didn't interpret your joke. I just told the people, the ambassador has told a joke, you must all laugh for what he That is cultural diplomacy. So we also have something called consular work, where we give visas, take care of Indians, we protect the interests of laborers in the Gulf region, we work with the NRIs and overseas Indians, and if someone goes to jail, we go and help him, give consular assistance. One of my friends, colleagues in Netherlands, he was told that there are some Sadarjis who have been put in jail in Amsterdam. So we went, said, "We want to help you to get out." So the Sadarji said, "Sir, no sir, please, we are very happy here, sir." They are getting free food, free accommodation, and free everything. Because according to the Dutch laws, you are allowed conjugal visits. And if you don't have a wife or a spouse, then other sources are open. So they are very happy. Now, let me tell you something about Indian foreign policy. Seriously. You want to know about Indian foreign policy? The foreign policy of your country. How much time?
10.
Okay, so I'll just wind up. Foreign policy of a country is determined by its strengths, weaknesses, needs, resources, neighbors, aspirations, and value systems. Now, we had one set of policy from 1947 till the end of the century, virtually. And then from the 21st century, we are in what you young people will call as diplomacy 2.0. Earlier it was diplomacy 1.0. Now, in 1947 when we became independent, we were a poor country, backward country, we didn't have enough food. We got American food aid. When the Chinese invaded India, we ran to the Americans for help. And even later when we did something very adventurous in Bangladesh, we needed the protection of Soviet Union. And we didn't have industries, we didn't have technology, we didn't have foreign exchange for our imports. So the world sympathized with us, and they also kicked us around. And you know, in international affairs, the strong kicks the weak. So if you don't want to be kicked too much, then use diplomacy. So that's what we did. So that's what Nehru did. He thought, you know, the Americans and the Russians, as part of the Cold War, they would kick us around. So he started this new game called non-aligned movement to gang up with other developing countries. And also Nehru was idealistic and moralistic, like many Indians. And so we also fought for some principles like decolonization, anti-apartheid. We made a lot of noise against Vietnam War on the basis of principles. Well, we paid a price for that, but the thing is, we managed to survive without collapsing like Soviet Union or like Yugoslavia. Because many people thought that India wouldn't survive as a country. So they thought India is just an idea, not a country. But we survived, so our diplomacy was what you call as a protective diplomacy. Protecting ourselves from being kicked around by other people too much. Protecting ourselves from being hurt by other people. Big powers, small powers, Pakistan. So our whole focus was on, please don't hit us, like Badivelu says sometimes. But in the 21st century, now India has become big, it has become a power, it has become a player. We don't just only watch other people playing, we also play. We want a seat in the main table in the UN Security Council. We are self-sufficient in agriculture, in the cereals. And we have a diversified, large industrial base. We have technology, IT, we have made a name, and our market has become big, and we are the fastest growing economy in the world, large economy in the world. So now this has become attractive to other people. So other people want to invest, want to trade with us, and so we get more respect now. So now we have become more assertive. So earlier we were only reacting to the agenda proposed by other countries. But now we put our agenda on that table. So you're all lucky you are in this second phase. I'm so happy for you. Because the India which you are going to represent is totally different from India what we represent. So I tell a story about it. Shall I? Yes. So in 1991, the leaders of 3 countries had a meeting at the Dawn. Narasimha Rao, Cardoso, President of Brazil, and Gorbachev of Russia. So they met God. First, The Brazilian president, Cardoso, said, God, I have been elected for 4 years. Brazil is a great country. God is Brazilian, some people say. It's a great country. We have come out of dictatorship, we have become a democracy now. I want to develop Brazil to realize its potential and become a great country in the 4 years of my term. Please help me. God said, son, not in your term. It will take another 20, 30 years. So the Brazilian president started crying. Then it was the turn of Gorbachev. Gorbachev said, God, we changed history. From communism, we have done a paradigm shift to democracy. We are changing the world. Now, I want to see Russia develop comprehensively like United States in my term of 4 years. Please help me. So God said, it will take a generation for Russia to develop like United States. 60, 70 years. So then Gorbachev started crying. Then came the turn of our Narasimha Rao. But before Narasimha Rao opened his mouth, the God started crying. And God said, Mr. Rao, I know what you are going to ask, but it will not be possible during my term. So that's what we thought. But now in 2018, there's a guy working in TCS. He sends a message in WhatsApp to God. God, I want to meet you. So, come along. There he goes. The God says, how do you told your Prime Minister, Narasimha Rao, development of India will take a century. I will not be there. So what do you want? So this young brash brat from TCS, he says, God, I'm not here to ask you for your help. I'm here to offer my help. Why don't you outsource your work? You take a vacation. Our company will run at 1/3 of the cost. So that is the new India where you are going to practice diplomacy 2.0. Okay? Well, I think I should stop here. We should have more time for it. But just to finish, I just wanted to, since I have gray hair, I have a right to give you some advice. Now you know why all my nephews and niece, when they see me, they run away. They say the old man is full of advice. So the number one advice I would like to give is, please don't do hard work. Do smart work. It is not quantity, it is quality. The Americans have a way of saying, more bang for the buck. So you should use your energy, time and resources for maximum results, optimum results. So if you want to master general knowledge, you can't do it in 1,000 years. Because general knowledge will have changed. So you should see what gets you the marks, where you get the maximum returns. So depending upon that, you must allocate your time and energy and do smart work. Don't go around telling everyone, oh, I'm studying for 18 hours. No, that doesn't matter. Be smart about your work. The second thing is, don't be studying 24 hours, neglecting your health. Your body is the most important. So please, let the body live healthily. Eat properly, do exercises, do games, relax, go to movies, Relax your mind, because a tense mind gets distorted. A healthy body with a relaxed mind, you think clearly and you can achieve your goals. And the third one, you should what they call IQ, the intelligence quotient. IQ is less important than I can. Look at Trump. He has an IQ much lower than all of you. Right? The guy has become president of India. I can. The confidence. Another thing, be yourself. Don't get frustrated by comparing yourself with something or somebody. Each person is unique, different. Different talents. You might be weak in something, but you will be strong in other things. So, you do things according to your personality, according to your DNA, your capabilities, your strengths and weaknesses. Look at this guy called Jack Ma, the Alibaba founder. I was in his town last week, Xi'an. The guy started life as a tour guide, English teacher, and he wanted a job in KFC. And they thought he was not qualified. And today, he is the richest man. It is because KFC thought he was not qualified, but he had other talents which they didn't see. So he says, "Thank you, KFC. If it was not for your rejection, I wouldn't have become a billionaire." And the other thing is, whatever you do, you should have some passion. Like I have a passion for Latin America. I breathe, eat, and live in Latin America. So in Latin America, my friends say that in your life, the right formula is 1/3 reason, logical, reasonable, 1/3 passion, and 1/3 craziness. Let your mind be crazy. Don't be logical, reasonable all the time. So you have to have this mix, allow your personality to develop. And lastly, don't think that your UPSC wants the best in India. No. They want people who have done relatively better than the other people who didn't make it in it. Got about 1 million people, right? Of which half of them write because their fathers, mothers, or prospective father-in-laws advise them to write. Huh? The serious people would be, in a 5 digit, about 40,000-50,000. And even in that, there are a lot of people who are clueless. They think they are doing hard work, they end up, cursing themselves. So the competition is only between a few thousand. So you just have to beat them. So when I was in China, this guy told me this story. There was this Chinese and an American. They were walking in a forest. And sometimes they sat under a tree and they had lunch. And when they were about to finish the lunch, there was a big roar of a lion. So the Chinese quickly took his running shoes, put it on. So this American looked at him and laughed at him. "Hey, Chino, you think you can outrun the lion?" Waste of time. So the Chinese looked at him and said, my friend, I don't have to outrun the lion. I have to outrun you. If I run faster, by the time the lion finishes with you, I am out. So it's a relative competition. So don't take it too seriously. Thank you. Now,